What's going on, everyone? Happy Friday to everyone. Hopefully everyone is doing well, staying safe, healthy. If you had taken a COVID test, hopefully you have tested negative. If you did test positive, I hope you have a full and speedy recovery with no long COVID issues. It is time now for the Friday edition of the Pandemic Update for Friday, July 26th, 2024. If you're new to my channel, this is where we do the daily pandemic update on all things COVID and any other virus that could be a health threat to you. Let's face it, there are a lot of different viruses out there. Each of them carry different risks and health threats to you. COVID, it's been going on now since 2020. Here we are in 2024. COVID is not over. You may not hear about it much in the news anymore, but trust me, we are in a big COVID surge right now here in the United States. We're in a wave. We're in the summer wave. People are sick. People are being hospitalized, and yes, people are even still dying of COVID. So, you need to be informed with what's going on. That's where I come along and give to you a daily pandemic update every day. Want to stay informed? Subscribe down below. Give this video a thumbs up. Hit that notification bell. And of course, share these videos with anyone you know. And leave your comments down below. Alrighty, today is a Friday, which means we do have new data just in from the CDC, and plus we do have a few news stories to talk about as well. Starting off in Minnesota today, Minnesota Department of Health flags 3 measles cases in the Twin Cities area. Yes, that's right, 3 more cases have been reported in Minnesota. This brings their total to 15 for the year. And somewhere else, measles is rising right now. That is in the state of Oregon. In Marion County, they're reporting an increase in measles cases. And Oregon State now has 14 cases being reported in their state. So this is an uptick there as well. And this continues to be a problem, not just in Oregon and Minnesota, but all across the United States, Canada, and around the world. There have been increases in the number of measles cases. Already, taking a look at this now, more interesting news. Billy Horschel has withdrawn from the 3M Open. He is a golfer, and he has had to withdraw because he is not feeling well. Let's actually read some of this. He said, in quote, "I wasn't feeling great late last night and took some medicine." He told the tour's communication staff about an hour before his tee time. Had decent sleep but woke up and just have a fever. Body is just not wanting to respond. Every muscle feels like it's locked up. Tried to do a little warm-up in the gym, just didn't respond. Tried to go out to the golf course and hit some balls. Body's just not wanting to cooperate. Therefore, he has had to drop out of the 3M Open Championship. So, yes, that is not good. Now, moving on to this. Harvey Weinstein has tested positive not only just for COVID, but double pneumonia, and he is currently being treated at the Bellevue Hospital prison ward, according to his reps. So, MP's not doing well at this time. All right, moving on now to one of our weekly updates that we usually bring to you each and every week, and that is the July 26th update from Jay Weiland. And he reports this week, infections flat this week after weeks of increases. This may or may not be the absolute peak, as KP.3.1.1 will become dominant in the first week of August. So here's what he's reporting. He's reporting 760,000 new infections a day, 1 in every 44 people currently infected, 37% higher than the 12-month average. And you can see here at the top, there's that little bit of a flattening. And we've seen this happen with waves before, and then they start going up, and then sometimes they do go down. So, who knows? Maybe we are already peaking, but I express caution. KP.3.1.1 does come into play and take over in August. Declines in the West, but increases in the Midwest and South estimates ratio of people currently infected by region. 1 in 54 people in the Midwest, that's up. 1 in 29 in the South, that's up. 1 in 77 in the Northeast, that's flat. And 1 in 26 in the West. That's down. The West Coast has definitely peaked at this point. We saw the first place to peak was in Hawaii. Then we saw a peaking in Alaska. Then Alaska actually started going back up again. Hey, double peakings, they can happen. Reading on here, KP.3.1.1 with S31 deletion is growing at about 60% per week over all other KP.3s in America and abroad. Dominance in the U.S. is expected around August 6th and should push upwards on the Midwest and Northeast, where numbers are still moderate. That is very true. Here in the Northeast and out in the Midwest, we really have not seen much of our wave yet. We've seen a portion of the wave, but we haven't rose much like what's happened in the South. And oftentimes during the summer waves, we're always the last region to rise, as the South and West always rise first. Finally, he goes on to say KP.3.1.1 may also slow the declines in the West and South in August. And yes, it is something that we will have to watch. It's because of some different spikes. I'm not too well educated on all of that stuff, so that's why oftentimes you won't see me read all about that stuff. But it's something we'll have to watch as we go into August. So we could, in fact, be peaking right now and start dropping, or we could see KP.3.1.1 cause things to go back up again. And we know there have been variants that have done that over in the UK. Let's look at the UK real quickly. We had the update yesterday. Multiple times since April, the UK has gone up and then gone down again. And you can see here, April into May, they went up and they went down. And then look what happened in June. They went up again, then they went down, then they started going up again. So this type pattern has happened before around the world. And if we go back to a chart real quickly, we can see, take a look at 2022. We can see there have been periods where we went down nationally, then we went up slightly, then we went down more, then we went up slightly, then we went down again. So, I mean, these things, they do happen, like it or not. All right, moving on now. How about to the pollen levels for today? And the National Allergy Map. Yikes, yeah, things are not going good for pollen ones. We're starting to see an increase in pollen as of lately. More oranges have been popping up. 55% of the country is in medium status, and we can see here that there is a lot of orange in the plains. There's some orange in the northeast now showing up as well. Still a lot of green in the southeast. You're good in the southeast. And some yellow across a large portion of the country. Taking a look at air qualities, we want to zoom this out to the national level. Air qualities are kind of mixed bag. They are better today in the northeast. You can see here as it very slowly loads. They're a little bit better, but they're still problematic across portions of the West Coast. Yeah, here we go. Take a look at this. Pacific Northwest is not doing well. Unless you're along the coast of Oregon and Washington, where it's not terrible. Move to the east. The wildfires are a big problem. Still wildfires up in Canada. Bad air quality up in portions of Nebraska and South Dakota. And if you take a look real closely, you can see where that cold front, or boundary I should say, ended up from yesterday. It's now down around southern Virginia, Indiana, and North Carolina. How do we know that? Because look where the air quality, remember all that bad air quality that was over Pennsylvania yesterday? Part of that being from the wildfire smoke. Remember that? Well, look where it ended up. It shifted south a little bit. And if you're in the plains, you got a double whammy. You got moderate pollen levels and bad air qualities. All right, moving on now to this and heat-related illnesses. We can see there's still a problem in a large portion of the country, although be it right now there is a breather in the heat in the northeast. Not bad. It will come back at some point, probably starting second half of this weekend. You want to learn more about climate and weather? You can do that over on my other X account, which is Climate Data Report. Go follow me over there. Taking a look at EMS calls in Philadelphia yesterday. 805 EMS incidents were reported for Thursday, July 25th. That's still over 800, but it is slightly lower now. Again, we're starting to see the heat break for a little bit, but it will be coming back. Taking a look at Montgomery County, Pennsylvania for EMS calls right now, live looking. 15 active calls, 1 for respiratory emergency. We see vomiting, we see stroke. We do see quite a few different things going on right now. And let's take a look at Chester County, Pennsylvania. And we do see sick person, not once, not twice, but 3 times. And as we know, in Chester County, Pennsylvania, I'll show it to you once again. since we're on that county right now, there has been a large increase in COVID reported in that area. Again, though you saw the Northeast region, if we go back here, way back, you saw the Northeast region of the U.S. is flat. That doesn't mean anything. Sometimes it can go right down to your county. And you can see in Chester County, Pennsylvania, one of the wastewater sites is showing a large increase for COVID. Walgreens this week, the national positivity rate is 39.6%. The prior week was 39.2%. That was up 0.4%. Total test, 7,637. The prior week is 6,767. All right, let's take a look at Canada. Drum roll, please. I have to refresh this. COVID activity level is high. Flu activity level is moderate. Viral activity level of flu B is moderate. So flu A and flu B both moderate. RSV is low at this time. All right, new data just in from the CDC. To make sure I refreshed it, let's just refresh it again. And you can see here, CDC does show we have leveled off a little bit, but there have been times in the past, like let's go back to December of 2022, we did level off there, then we went up higher. You can see back in, when is this? June of 2022, we leveled off, like's happening right now, and then we did end up going higher, so there have been times when that happens. I'm not saying it's going to happen, I'm just saying if it does happen, don't let it be a complete shock to you. There is another variant that is about to take over, and we do have some sections, including the Midwest and Northeast, which haven't really fully leafed out to the full potential of a wave just yet. All right, taking a look at this. There is some, while it's good that we are leveling off this week, there is still some bad on this map, and that is the fact that the number of low sites continues to drop. That's down by another 26 this week, 26%, and there's only 64 sites now out of all these wastewater sites that's in the dark blue. If we jumped all the way down to the highest level, 80 to 100% COVID increase detected. Yeah, there's 217 of them now. Orange, which is pretty bad as well, 60 to 79% COVID increase detected. 372 sites. That's a lot of sites. There's also a lot of sites in the light blue shade as well. You can see here a lot of light blue in the Midwest right now with Great Lakes, which would be moderate levels. And we can see on the West Coast, if anywhere is going to start to lose red sites in the next couple of weeks, I would have to think that would be the West Coast, and I would also have to think KP 3.1.1 probably won't allow things to rise there again because the West Coast just got hit really, really hard. If anywhere is going to rise more, like I've been saying multiple times in this video, it's the Midwest and the Northeast that have not seen the full wave just yet. Alrighty, moving on now. We'll take a full look at wastewater on Sunday, but real quickly, I do want to show you this, and we can see very high wastewater levels in California, Washington, Oregon, Wyoming, portions of New Mexico, portions of Texas. Florida is very high right now. Still high in Alaska, still high in Hawaii as well. But you can see, when you take a look at the Northeast, it's actually still coming up low. Out of 108 wastewater sites in New York State, it's still low. So there's a lot of room for New York to go higher, at least from this map. There is still room for it to go higher. New Jersey is high. Pennsylvania is moderate at this time. And Pennsylvania is usually one of the last states, from my experience from living in this state, we're usually one of the last states to peak during the summer surge. Ever since the pandemic has begun. We're usually at the tail end. Sometimes some of the states in the Great Lakes are as well, but Pennsylvania, for some reason, we're always delayed with these waves. All right, moving on. Let's take a look at Houston real quickly. And we can see in Houston, we see a mixed bag of things. Yes, there are a couple wastewater sites that are dropping, but in Houston, Texas, we do see a bunch that are still rising at this point, and that is a bit delayed. It's up to July 15th at this time. Taking a look at what's going on with emergency department visits. We're just looking at the national level. We'll go through the whole state list, all the states that are included, which there are a few that aren't. We'll go through that whole list tomorrow, like we've been doing on Saturdays. We can see as of July 21st, 1.9% is the 7-day moving average for emergency department visits diagnosed with COVID, and the 1 day is, wow, 2.08%. So, yes, it continues to go up, and you don't see any signs of this slowing down just yet. Remember, emergency department visits and or hospitalizations would be lagged. Now, we did not get an update on the latest variant, but here it is. KP.3 is 32.9%, and that KP.3.1.1 variant you heard me mention, subvariant, you heard me mention many times in this video today, is at 17.7%, and it is expected to race ahead and become dominating because reports say it is even more immune evasive. It's not more severe, it just spreads and you can catch it easier. KP 2.3 is at 12.8%. LB.1 is at 10.5%. Taking a look now at what's going on with emergency department visits, increases around the country, and we can see here substantial increases continue in many states, but it's starting to stabilize in the West Coast. Why? Because the West Coast is peaking at this time and will drop or do something. It's not going to rise more out there, but with that being said, they remain at very high levels of transmission in that area at this time. So don't let the peak fool you. Oh, it's peaked, it's over, we can unmask again. No, your levels are still very high. They have to drop a lot before it gets back down to being low levels once again. So right now, yes, it's peaked in the west, but the levels are still very high. And take a look at this. Epidemic status actually grew once again in California. Epidemic status in portions of Alaska grew again. And in a whole bunch of states. There's some where it's likely growing, but we do introduce something we like to see on this map. Look at Hawaii. It is likely declining. Yes. That is a good thing. We can actually clap about that. We hope that continues, and we hope it actually accelerates to declining in future weeks. Not estimated in Florida, not estimated in a lot of states. My state, Pennsylvania, is likely growing. Maine is growing as well. And then moving on, now the flu, and it's a sea of green, so it's minimal in all places at this time. New Jersey today, 442 hospitalizations. 16 people on a ventilator. Yes, this number is down slightly. 52 people in the ICU, and discharges 84 at this time. 69 out of 70 hospitals reporting. New York State reported another 2,532 cases today. They continue their steady rise at this rate with no signs of it slowing down. It looks to be that they are growing at about the same amount each week. So we'll have to continue to see what happens there. And remember, with that KP 3.1.1 variant, probably New York State would be one of the first states where that does eventually take over. Or at least I would assume, because that's just been the theme of the pandemic. Taking a look here at what's going on with their hospitalizations, 1,127 people in the hospital, and in the ICU at this time, 99. So the number of people in the ICU did drop slightly. Hospitalizations in LA, they did start to drop some. You can see they peaked at about 291, which was the 7-day average number of people hospitalized. Then it dropped down to 280. Now it went up slightly once again, back to 286. And we can see here deaths. Yeah, they've gone up ever so slightly, but they're really not that big of a deal. Cases have started to drop, but the positivity rate, maybe less people are getting tested. Positivity rate continued to rise and is now up to 13.15%. Emergency departments continued to rise. Wastewater did rise a little bit more, but is starting to slow off. California in general, the positivity rate, check this out. Yeah, the positivity rate in California is really skyrocketing here. Well, it shows it on a chart, that is, but it's up to 13.8%, which is a relatively high level. And let's see, let's go back to winter. In the winter time, that does look to be higher than what it was back in the winter, and almost higher than last summer, if not higher. Yes, that is very similar to where they peaked last summer. Matter of fact, no, 13.8%, that is higher, because I just saw here they peaked at 13.1% last summer. Influenza, the positivity rate is 2.3%, and influenza deaths, not at this time, it's showing 0.0%. Alrighty, folks, that does it for the Friday edition of the Pandemic Update. So, the key takeaway today is the West Coast has peaked, the South is about to peak. Nationally, we have kind of paused and leveled off a little bit. KP 0.3, 0.1, 0.1 may drive us a little bit higher once again in August, just for a few weeks, and then eventually I think everywhere will peak. We still have to wait several more weeks before the Midwest and Northeast peak, just because the wave started later there, and it didn't grow as fast, and it's probably more prolonged. So KP 0.3, 0.1, 0.1 will probably have more room to grow in those areas. Alrighty, folks, that does it for the Friday edition of the Pandemic Update. If you enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up, subscribe down below, hit that notification bell, share this with anyone you know, leave your comments down below. I will see you again next time. Until I see you again next time, thanks for watching and have a fantastic weekend.